are living stereo stylists in this groove.
Hit it!
That's what I'm talking about.
Wait!
Okay, now, from the beginning.
Welcome to Podcast Alive with iSpike Bikerman, proudly brought to you by iSpikeStudios.com. Hey, g'day listeners. I'm iSpike and thank you for tuning in to Podcast Alive with episode 2 of the Matt Taylor series. Good to have you back. We'll carry on where we left off before as we discover the centre.
That's wonderful. It
Yep.
makes you
Brings you
happy,
happy.
and
Yep.
look, anything.
Yep.
But there's this creative centre, and the closer you can get to it, that's where...
The juice is.
Yeah,
The good juice is there.
Yeah, okay, I'm on a bus.
I relate 100% to what you're saying.
Yeah.
I'm ready to listen to this story.
Yeah, I'm on a bus.
Yes?
And I catch it just outside my house where I live in Perth.
Yep.
And I'm driving along and I'm thinking, God, in about 1958, somewhere around there, I went to the Royal Show. It's called the Ekka in Queensland.
Yep.
It's a real big deal.
Yeah.
And they had Sideshow Alley. And in those days, you could have the local, person who's got, like Slim Dusty was always playing.
Okay.
I saw Slim dozens of times.
Excellent.
And my hero at the time, when I was 8 or 9 years old, was a fella named Smokey Dawson.
Okay.
And Smokey had his cereal. So I'd come home from school, pretend to do my homework, which I never did, and I'd listen to all the serials, Smokey Dawson and Dad and Dave and all of these wonderful serials.
Dave, yeah.
And so I went to the show and Smokey Dawson had a tent there.
Okay.
So you'd pay about 3 shillings
Yep.
and you could go in and see Smokey Dawson. Now, I'd been there the year before, and so I had my plan all worked
this
out.
following year, what
I had
you
the
were
plan
going to
worked
do.
out. So I went to see Smokey, and they said, can we have someone from the audience?
Straight in there. Got up.
Yep.
Right.
And I went out front,
Yep.
and his assistant came up and put a sixpence on the end of my tongue.
Oh, right,
No safety gear. This is 1950s.
Yeah, right, Sixpence.
Nothing like that.
Yeah,
I got
righto.
a sixpence on the end of my tongue, and Smokey whipped it off.
That's what he was known for, was his whip cracking.
Whip cracking, all
Righto.
of this type of stuff.
Yeah.
And
Boom, straight off
and,
the tongue.
and I often say that was my introduction to show business.
Well, that's cool. That's
Smoky,
your first time
yeah.
up there, and you got a sixpence whipping off your
off
tongue.
my tongue. And I think they let me keep the sixpence.
Didn't you swallow it? Whoop.
So I'm on this bus.
Right.
I think, God almighty, I haven't thought of that for 40, 50 years. I haven't even... And by the time I got off that bus, I already had about 2 verses of it written.
Wow. And that's a song
Now,
called...
where's it come from?
You don't know.
That's it. Yeah,
It just come...
But you just let it
going
happen.
over it. Yeah, boom, boom.
Yeah, let
I
it...
do believe that's where you went on in to say about that energy source business.
Oh, of course, yeah.
I agree with you, man. And sometimes take the head off. I call it that. Stop thinking, and just be.
That's it. Yeah.
You know, and it's like didn't the Beatles let it be? Let it be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Brilliant.
That's where the music comes from. It's that's why when I meet an atheist, which is so silly that
Worm food.
even science knows that 90% of the universe is missing. They can't find it. They know it's there because galaxies should fall apart.
Right.
So there's some incredible force, and they call it dark matter and everything, but
It's holding it together or whatever it is. I mean, philosophically, the universe and you know, all it is and all those sorts of things, it's a completely different world, isn't it? Like talking about it. What is it? I'm trying to think of the proper word. Philosophizing or philosophical philosophizing, I think is the word I'm trying to think about. But anyway, I think that, you know, that's for another time. Matt.
No, true. But that's, you know, like with my music, I can tell you now, I never treat anyone as an idiot.
Good on you.
You know, I can have the most drunk guy coming up, and as long as they don't spill booze on my shoes, I don't mind. But I still won't treat them as an idiot. And I respect. You know, I've often had people come up and say, "Oh, look, I'm pretty pissed, but I really enjoyed the show." And I say, "Well, I'm not pissed, but that's my job, is to entertain you. And what you do in your free time, nothing to do with me."
Yeah, right.
You know, I do what I do.
Yeah.
And any kind of enjoyment you can get out of it, well,
that pleases you.
I'm as happy as Larry.
Yeah. It's like me and my live shows, Matt.
Yeah.
When someone types in there, you know, "Oh, great set, like the music, that's interesting," just some feedback, direct feedback. And that's what you get when you are on stage, isn't it? The energy of the audience coming back at you. Can you tell me, Matt, like in your career, we'll get into, like, so let's say stepping into talking about your first band, for instance, and then how that sort of progressed. But in your career, mate, can you tell me, like, what would be one of the main highlights that stands out in your head that you know, that you can think of now? Because I mean, I bet you there's millions of them. There's something that comes to mind.
I'll tell you, and it's got nothing to do with music.
Here we go.
It was in, we're in the Bay City Union. We've gone to Melbourne.
Is this your first band?
What's that?
Bay City Union?
Bay City Union was my first band. And we all had to register for the draft.
Oh.
And then we get our piece of paper, and I opened it up, and it said, "Your services will not be required."
Oh, phew.
And I went, "Oh, God."
Got away with that.
Yeah.
For those people that are unfamiliar with what the draft is, what Matt's talking about here is enlisting in the army or in the armed forces, a mandatory listing. So how did you? What did you have? Bad teeth or?
No, it just wasn't called up.
Wasn't called up.
No, because they did it by the date you were born.
Oh, okay.
And so all the kids I remember talking to Normie Rowe, and Normie told me, he said, "I keep asking people what their birthday was, and I never found one who had the same birthday as me." Because we often thought that, you know, with Normie they might have done a little bit of a, you know, let's get the pop star in the army. In the army, same as what happened with Elvis. Yeah.
Oh, right. I had to do a bit of time in there. Yeah.
So, but anyway, we'll leave that one. But that, and you know, I can remember playing up in Broome. And I played there quite often, and there was these ex-soldiers would come in early in the night, and we'd sit down and have a lovely talk.
Yeah.
They were gorgeous men.
Yeah.
And soon as the crowd come, they'd disappear. They couldn't handle crowds.
Okay.
And
yep.
And I always remember that, you know. They were really harmed.
Yeah, right.
They were really harmed.
Yeah. And from being on the front line and stuff.
And they just sort of lived outside Broome. I haven't been up to Broome. I'm going to go to Broome in a few weeks, but I haven't been there for probably 15 years, and I often think, I wonder what they're doing.
Yeah,
I
how
hope
they're getting on
hope
with
they're
life.
fine now.
Yeah, the adjustments and things. But
Yeah.
I guess it's just shell shock, isn't it? That
Oh, it
is
was
what you-
horrid.
And you,
It
sa-
was
you
horrid.
saw that, yeah.
What they had to
Which
see.
I guess puts more emphasis on the first one that you just told me about, getting that, we don't need you, we don't want you. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, because I would have just been them.
Yeah.
And, you just saw what damage was done.
Yeah. And I guess just speaking of, like, this is Vietnam War time, isn't it?
And it's still going on. You know,
hearing
we've really got to look after
The human
our
race.
boys.
Yeah. Well, and also war sucks.
Oh,
Surely leaders of the world, I mean, I don't want to get political here, but is it absolutely necessary? Really, people, human race, dead set folks, sort your differences out and love each other. Would you not agree, Matt?
But look at it,
Really?
One of my best friends, his son's married to this beautiful Japanese girl.
Gorgeous.
Now, when I was a kid, they were the,
Enemy.
Because, they were
Wrong.
terrible people.
Yeah, it was wrong, yeah.
And, the Germans were terrible people. I was raised on, all of these, where America won the war.
Yeah.
And I got the shock of my life when I started reading history and found out that, the Russians had lost 20 million people in World War II. And I remember being in Germany when the wall came down. And,
Oh, you were there?
About a year later, but it was still...
Fresh, yeah.
Oh, it was fantastic.
Yeah.
If you go to Berlin now, it's all German.
It's all one.
But, it was fantastic in, the early 90s, as Stewie will tell you.
Yes, righto.
And...
So you've done travelling around the world then?
yeah.
Toured around the world as an
Yeah,
entertainer?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I've played in a few of the clubs in America and stuff like that.
Yeah?
Nothing,
Like Matt Taylor World Tour?
none of that type of stuff. I just
Got involved in other
went and
festivals
played
and
in
clubs?
England, did a few gigs there.
Yeah, that would have been cool.
Yeah, it's good to like. I remember I was in Germany and
Yeah.
and it shows you the different way Australians drink to the Germans drink. I was playing this place called Salzgitter. It used to be called Hermann Göringberg, but it went back to its original name, Salzgitter.
Okey-doke.
And it was a beautiful a summer's night, and it was like a resort, and they had this lovely stage out front. And so I set up, and there was right in front of me, there'd been people who'd been there all day, drinking and having a great time. And I was just about to start, and a guy came down from the back to these people who were making noise and everything. Right. And he says it in English so I could hear. He says, "Excuse me, we have come to listen to the Us Blues. Would you mind going somewhere else?" And as soon as I heard that, I thought, if this is Australia, I know what's going to happen.
Yeah, tables and
And
chairs.
then the guys go, "Oh, sorry, we'll go up the back." I'm sitting there thinking, wow, is this place civilized or what?
Yeah,
So, so they go up, and I just did this lovely show in
But
Salzgitter.
that was something that happened just prior to the show.
Oh, yeah, it was just brilliant.
That is a difference, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was expecting to happen. Yeah. So you learn, and when people say, what are American audiences like? And I said, they're a piece of piss. the wonderful thing with Americans is they go out to have a good time.
Yeah.
You give them a good time, they love it.
They'll
You know,
love you back. Yeah.
Where, some places you go in Australia, it's entertainment.
Yeah.
Play something we know.
Yeah, righto.
Yeah.
It's just
know.
attitude.
Yeah.
Entitled, sense of entitlement attitude.
Yeah.
Just a bit piggish type thing.
And, and those audiences, they're hard.
Yeah. Because you're bashing away up there and putting it out,
Yeah.
giving it your all, and you're just getting not a negative, but just a neutral feedback. You can't tell if you're, I guess the fact that they're there and they stay there is I guess a surety enough that what you're, they must like you because they're still here.
Oh, well, you often find that, especially with a lot of bikers, they don't like to show they're enjoying themselves. Yet they'll come up at the end and say, oh, that was fantastic. And I understand. I think, no, that's fantastic. If that's the way you see it, that's fine.
Have you? What would you like as far as let's have a look at the sex and drugs and rock and roll side. We did touch on it before, and you said you've maintained a pretty cleanish lifestyle to be the man you are and as healthy as you are. But surely, wasn't there an incident from my reading?
Like when you're 19, 20, 21.
Yeah.
And you're bulletproof.
Yeah, of course.
And you're just there for everything.
Yeah.
All the rest, sex, drugs, rock and roll.
Can you tell me your first experiences? I think I've got written down here something about that. Let's just see if I can find that here. Because yes, yeah. Go back. Cookies. No, not that one. I'm just trying to find the particular the question that leads into that, and you've got. Okay, I want to ask you another question first.
Okay.
Why do you have little tolerance for people who abuse authority? What is your experience?
Oh, yeah, well, this is, this is born in Brisbane, and Brisbane in those days was...
And this is the 60s.
Yeah, it was a police state. There's no getting away from it.
Righto.
The police ran everything,
Yep.
and they were as corrupt as you could ever... you couldn't play gigs on Anzac Day, but I played a gig on Anzac Day and the cop came down, got his payment and left. That's how bad it was.
Righto.
And, they weren't even hiding it. But when I'm 16,
Yeah.
I'm really into blues, and I've been working for a year and a half, so I've got a bit of money, and so I hear that in Melbourne, a couple of mates of mine go down to Melbourne, and they tell me that in Melbourne you've got all the blues records. They said, you're going to have trouble getting, which you did up in Brisbane. You had, I tell the story of going into Parlings and seeing a little girl there, and I said, excuse me, have you got any Howlin' Wolf records? And she looks at me and goes, Howlin' what? So it gave you some idea. It was, a blues fanatic in a town that just had no blues.
Yeah.
So I go down to Melbourne. I'm there for a couple of months. Every cent that I can lay my hands on, I buy blues records.
Yeah.
And as I say, I also buy a nice pair of boots and some Larry shirts because I had girls to impress. I still, wasn't a complete idiot.
Yeah, righto.
So I go down and I'm there. And while I'm there, my hair's, down past my shoulders by this stage.
Righto.
So I'm running out of money, so I have to go back to Brisbane.
Yep.
And my favourite band in Australia was called the Purple Hearts. They were just magic. I'd still pay to go and see them today, even though I never used to pay them.
The Purple Hearts. We'll have to look out for that.
Purple
I'm
Hearts.
not familiar with them.
Just wonderful.
Yeah. And what sort of band were they?
They were very much a rhythm and blues band. They more or less played. They played a lot of Rolling Stones, and they got the Five Live Yardbirds album before, because Lobby Lloyd, one of the great heroes of Australian music, he was their guitarist, and he was my first idol.
Okay.
They'd played a place called the Prim Junior in the Piccadilly Arcade. It's not even there in Brisbane anymore.
Okay.
And I'd go in and I'd sit right in front of Lobby's amp. He had an AC30 and everything would be on 10, you know.
10.
And and he was just a magician. I'd just sit there
In awe.
In awe.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, in the break I'd say, you want a cup of coffee or something, Lobby?
Right.
And I was, you know, and eventually, you know, they started to invite me to the parties and
As a
everything
friend?
like that. And
As a fellow musician, as a friend?
oh no, as a silly little kid
Yeah, right.
who was a bit of a blues fanatic. No, they never took me seriously.
Okay.
Not until about 20 years later.
Yeah, right.
And then they took me very seriously.
Yeah.
It was just, so I get back and I'd just been to Melbourne and I'd seen some great bands in Melbourne, but nothing as good as the Purple Hearts. So I went down the Prim Junior to find out when they were playing.
Yeah.
Just as I'm down there, 2 or 3, I can't remember now, Brisbane detectives go down there, probably to get their payment, I don't know. They see me. You're working? I said, I just got back from Melbourne. Come along with me. So they take me to the Roma Street police station, sit me in a chair. One of the cops comes up behind me, grabs my shoulder-length hair, gets a razor blade and just cuts it. Can you imagine what would happen today if that happened?
Wow.
Nothing.
No. Well,
No one. I told my dad, and my dad was a trammy.
Yeah.
Had he complained, he would have just been bashed in a toilet and left to bleed. This is how bad it was.
That was how the police were in the 60s.
This is how bad it was.
Wow.
They were thugs.
Yep.
And years later, a friend of mine sent me a book.
Yes.
And it talked about what was called the Bodgy Squad. And the Bodgy Squad was to find anyone poking, you know, showing any defiance to the norms of Brisbane society. And their idea was to sort them out. So, because I had shoulder-length hair, that was sorting me out.
It's being sorted out.
So they sorted me out.
Gosh.
And, of course, in this book, it says that when they had the Fitzgerald inquiry, the same cops were taking money off prostitutes, they were taking bribes off hotels, going in, and they were criminals.
Right.
Absolute criminals.
Have they since been charged and jailed? These people?
No, they wouldn't have gone to jail. No. They all would have been...
Because they'd be similar to... no, potentially pushing up daisies now.
They'd all be pushing up daisies now.
Yeah. Because they were men and you were
they
a boy.
were really just thugs.
Yeah, right. So this is why you've got this sense of
anti-authority. Did it make me a good conformist little Queenslander? No, it sent me the exact opposite way.
Yeah.
You know, if I see corruption or anything that now, I just call it out straight away.
Good on you, man.
I'm not...
Straight up and down person. Yeah.
You know,
Yep.
I know what it's like. And as far as being a blues player, well, I knew what it was like now. And being black in the South in 1963 and 64, they had it worse than what I did, but at least I had an idea of what they had to put up with
being
every day.
ostracised and being against, I guess, not necessarily anti-conforming, but just sort of semi-revolutionary.
Well, you wanted big changes.
Yeah. I've heard a click in my camera. I just want to double check that. And just not moving. I want to see like that. It's probably Canon thing, where if it's not played with.
Well, we're not even out of the 60s yet.
Alrighty. I've got the question I was looking for.
Beauty.
It says here, as I said before, the entertainment industry is renowned for its sex, drugs, and rock and roll. I can confidently say that you've got the rock and roll down. But can you please explain to me the songs Hound Dog Dust Bust and Lightning Ground?
Oh, beauty. Okay. Hound Dog Dust Bust.
Good question.
Yep. I'm in the Bay City Union.
Yep.
And we'd go to Sydney every now and then, and I'd catch up with a blues player there by the name of Wally Mudd. His brother's name was Starving Wild Dog, and if you ever hear Bop Bop and the Blues by, that's him playing piano, Starving Wild Dog.
Right.
So we were great old mates. So whenever I'd hit town, probably we didn't phone or anything. I'd just turn up at his house and we'd go out wandering all over Paddington and everything like this. And he said, Matt, how would you like to meet the wizard? One of the universities had a wizard. And I thought, oh, that sounds pretty good. So it's in the Paddington area, and we go down this hill, and there's a house there, but we go into the cellar of the house, and here's a throne and a great big circle around the throne.
Blimey.
And
like a cult.
Yeah, and the wizard's talking to someone, so we didn't want to interrupt it. So we all sit down, waiting to see the wizard, and in the circle. And all of a sudden, a pipe goes past. I'd never seen a pipe. In those days, if we had hash or something, we'd burn it stick it on a pin, and breathe it in through a biro. That's how it was done there. So here's a pipe. I'd never seen a pipe. Ooh, that's very nice. Pass it on to one. So, we're still waiting there and the wizard's still talking to someone. So after about the third pipe, I look at Wally and I said, Wally, I've got the munchies, Wall. And I said, look, there's a taxi stand, not a taxi stand, more a taxi refueling place, and they had a 24-hour restaurant there. And I said, well, let's go and get a hamburger. So we wander up to the taxi place, get our hamburgers, and we're wandering back. And we're walking down the hill, and we see there's 3 cars now outside the house where we'd been. And as we got closer, we saw they were throwing people in the back of a car. I thought, oh my God. It took us about 20 minutes. We're so stoned. And we think, oh, it's a bust. So we very carefully turn around and start walking up the other way, up the road.
Let's get the out of here.
So
you got away with that one.
So years later, I'm writing songs, and I think now, what would it have been like if some young kid came down from the country? In those days, the kids in the country didn't know very much about, hashish and things like that. So what if a young guy came down from the country and they showed him this stuff, and it looks like hound dog droppings.
Yeah, yeah.
And the funny thing is, Cheech and Chong got the same idea, but I wrote this song before they did their movie, and so the kid thinks that it's dog droppings, hound dog dust bust, hound dog dust. So he has a smoke and he thinks, God, I never realised, I've got all these sheepdogs and everything at home and they do a ton of this stuff. So, I'm probably going to be just in heaven for the rest of my life.
Smoking.
And so while he's there, there's a bust. And
Right.
at the end of the song it says, I've got 23 sheepdogs, I'm going to pick up every scrap. So
So that's how
that's how the hound dog dust bust came about.
That's the story behind that. And then you've got another one here that's similar.
Lightning Ground.
Lightning Ground, that's something interesting.
Well, Lightning Ground, of course, is, again, it happens in Sydney. There was a wonderful guitarist named Timmy Piper. He's still around somewhere. And he had this lovely wife. And she was Acid Queen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Trips, yep.
And so she'd get the best acid that you could get. And she'd supervise, she'd remain somewhat straight. And everyone would be tripping around her and everything like that. And I can remember her working past me, and I'm in the fetal position in the middle of the floor. And she walks past and says, "Oh, Matt seems to be having a good time." So that's pretty much what
Lightning Ground.
In a Dream About a Mountain,
Tripping out.
Yeah,
and
right. With acid, I knew it was something special, so I only ever took it about one more time again.
Thereafter.
Saw what I needed to see and thought, well, if I keep doing it, I'm just going to blow my brain cells, Which I've blown a few anyway, but
it happens, doesn't it?
I didn't want to blow any more.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah,
So from an early age, Matt, you yourself were into self-preservation, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
Right from an early age,
I've never been addicted to anything apart from cigarettes.
Okay.
Because that was the trouble with my generation. We all started smoking at 13.
Yes. It was the thing to do. It was advertised on television.
You can't find a photo of me without it. If someone had a camera.
Matt, I've got to ask you, when did you? Yeah, right. When did you stop smoking?
At 20, and I did that in Perth. I was spitting in a toilet, and there was little dark spots, and I thought, Matt,
that's not a good thing.
It might be, and that was singularly the hardest thing I've ever had to do in my life, give up smoking.
I'm going through that myself at the minute. I'm on Champix to cut me off.
Yeah.
And I'm not far from...
Just think of Mark Twain. It's easy to give up cigarettes. I've done it dozens of times. It's a hard one. And the incredible thing is that there's certain types of tobacco I can still smell it and go, Matt,
you got to shake out of
go
it.
away.
Yeah, right. Yeah, because Port Royal, I roll my own Port Royal.
Oh, yeah. Well, I used to roll pipe tobacco. I just love the smell of it.
Strong, yeah. There are lots of different flavours, aren't there? Pipe?
Yeah. And I was also into cigars.
Oh, okay. Now, Matt, I'm asking you this. You said 20 meaning when you were 20 years old or 20? So your cigarette, you're between 16 and 20. You smashed it, man. You lived a life just in 4 years. By the sound of all this, what we've talked about so far.
Mac, let's move on in our conversation. Hey, I hope you enjoyed episode number 2. Let's find out why Matt loves being 72 in episode number 3.
Hit it! That's what I'm talking about.
Wait! Okay, now, from the beginning.
Welcome to Podcast Alive with iSpike Bikerman, proudly brought to you by iSpikestudios.com. Thank you for listening to Podcast Alive, and we'll see you in the next episode. Hooroo!